Hi guys, another episode of the Shbanging It podcast. One which we're talking about, I think, a common problem that a lot of employers face and a lot of potential employees struggle with. Whether or not at some point in your career you need to make that next step and get that postgraduate degree or get that certain extra qualification to give you that leapfrog in your career. Whether it makes sense to do it in India, whether it makes sense to go abroad, and what are the pros and cons on either side of it. I'm joined today by two members of Schbang who are actually quite close to me. They work in the business development team with me, both of whom sort of take up a large part of my load, and one of whom is unfortunately leaving us and going abroad to study. So I have Jinita Shah here, who's a business development manager, who's been with us in the BD team for about 4 years, I want to say, and has worked with us across a lot of... Not 4 years, I'm wrong, 2.5. COVID made it feel longer. But she has sort of been also spearheading our UK operations as well, and now is leaving us in the fall to go pursue her higher education. The other member I have is Yash, who's also a business development manager in the BD team, who was toying with the stupid idea of going and doing his MBA in a university and was convinced otherwise by a wise sage at Schbang. I'm hoping to hear from him about what was that influence in his life and how he continues to learn from that influence today. That being said, hi Yash, Nida. Thanks for joining us today on a Saturday.
Hi. It just feels very formal to be talking to you.
No, I mean, it starts like this for like the internet, not the plebs. It's okay. We'll get into like making it normal. But so the reason like we have you all here today is like you all are both chosen. Both of you all are literally at the exact same position. You all are at similar points of times in your lives, and you have chosen like two different paths. One which I personally think is not the wise one, and one which I guess one of you thinks is the wise one. So you all want to start by just talking a little bit about yourselves, what you all have done in your careers, where you all have studied, and what, Jinita, since you're going abroad, what sort of prompted you to that, and Yash, maybe a little bit about why you're not going.
Cool. I'll start?
Yeah.
Okay, so I finished my bachelor's in economics from Jai Hind. And of course, like when I was graduating, COVID hit. Took a while for me to find a job, but finally did that very intense interview with you and then got the job somehow. Been here ever since, never really like explored any other company. I think at this point, what made me actually sort of, choose to go abroad, it's not that I've not had growth. Like I've had a tremendous growth, as you know, and I feel like Schbang has provided me with a lot of opportunities. But I think at this point, I feel like I've just known this. Like I've not known anything else. I just know the agency side of it. I just know the business development side of it. And I feel like at this time, it was, I think, a point where I just want to make a switch. Maybe, like I don't know if I'll ever come back, but just make that switch into just learning more about the entire gamut of marketing. There's so much, like currently my knowledge I think is still very limited to digital. I want to know more about, let's say, the brand side, or maybe doing more like the tech or the SEO part of it as well. I think that's why I just want to make that switch slightly. And of course, I mean, it does not matter whether you stay in India or whether you go abroad to do your masters. It could be either or. But I just feel like going abroad to do my masters, I just want to gain a bit of independence. I've been very sheltered out here, or living at home, living with my family. So I just think that making that switch at this point seemed like the right time to do so.
Got it. And Yash, you were similar structure in life.
So yeah, I mean, I was in NMIMS. I finished my BBA there. Post which, I ended up joining Connect as my first agency. I was there for like about a year and a half doing strategy.
Shit, nah, here.
Let's reserve that for now.
You don't have to say anything. I'm just saying I heard.
Okay. Yeah, so no, I was saying that I was at Connect for a year and a half. I was doing strategy there. Then I was pursued to move into Schbang. I joined in the creative team, working on various brands from a creative point of view, etc. All of that went on for a year, then COVID kicked in. And eventually I just realized that creative itself, like I like being creative, but being in the creative team and that pressure that you have of always thinking and continuously thinking of ideas on a daily basis, I think it started restricting my creativity. So I decided I would look at other teams, etc. And fortunately a place opened up in the BD team, and I moved here about 8 months ago, and I've been happy ever since.
But you were going to go abroad and study, right? Like, I mean, we had a conversation, and I was quite like pushy, I'm sure, but the logic of not going abroad and study, why did you choose not to do that?
So the decision to go abroad actually came into my head when I was in the creative team. So before I moved to the BD team altogether, I was always going to come to the BD team for a short stint. The plan of action was always to be here for a year or so, a year or two in the BD team, and then always move out. So this seed was planted in my head way back. But that was also because I think creative didn't align with my skill set, or I guess my attitude towards life. So I think that sort of changed my mindset towards a lot of other things, including like going abroad to study. But I think eventually, when I switched to the BD team, I started like working, and like I started enjoying my work again. I think at that point I figured, maybe this is not the right time to do this. Initially I had thought it was because I wasn't also enjoying what I was doing. But now that I'm in a position where I'm enjoying what I'm doing, I think there's scope to grow.
So you'll have a lot of friends your age who are at similar junctures. Is that the reason you think that that's the case, that a lot of people tend to take that break from working and go and study because they don't enjoy what they're doing? Or you think it's just the multiplier, like in your mind, you've taken this decision. Is the multiplier a factor that, okay, you're going to Imperial, right?
Yeah.
So with that Imperial degree, do you feel that I'm going to be able to command more and that's my rationale behind doing it? Because do you feel, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, personally, I have felt that I'm also a product of the same education system sort of that we all both have gone through, but I never felt like I learned as much as I learned in the last 12 years I've been working, I think now. I've not learned as much I learned more in 5 years of working than I did in maybe 16 years of education.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to be different for you when you go and study?
I do have a slightly varying opinion on this. So I don't have a marketing degree, right? Like my degree is in economics. But I do feel like even though it's not directly helped me, I feel like just the skills that it taught you, right? Like I was always scared of numbers and now I'm in business development, right? I did maths in college. I think just those bits and pieces that I can take from my education and provide insights to clients. Like today, like just talking to clients about demand, talking about supply, talking about like various factors that like a rational consumer versus an irrational consumer. I feel like a lot that may not have come in immediately if I would have just come in without maybe having this kind of a background. So I feel like that's also a reason why I chose to pursue higher education, especially in the field of marketing, because I feel like I still don't know, like, I mean, I will be coming out of the education system a year from now. And I do know that while hands-on experience is the best experience you can get, I do feel like education will give you the jump in your field, once you're done with it.
Got it. Both of y'all have taken a break from studying and then both of y'all attempted at least to go back into studying. Wasn't that hard?
I mean, I've always enjoyed studying.
Nerd.
As much as it sounds like weird, but I've always enjoyed studying. I've always enjoyed learning one, and you know that, like reading more research.
But like as age goes on, right? Like, the fundamental ability to absorb things and to pick stuff up like that, the discipline, let's call it, that we had when we were younger, the ability to sit in classes from 9 to 3, go home, do your homework, work on it, study, and then chill. Is that discipline, you think, broken a little bit? Because you've also been working for, now what I learned is 2.5 years, but you've been working, right, for those 2.5 years, you've broken that this thing. So was it hard coming back to it, to do your GMAT or to like come up with that stuff?
I don't think so. And like even like a lot of people have actually told me that, like it's going to be difficult for you to go back to studying. But I mean, that's what we do at work as well. We work like 10:30 to 7:30.
But it's not as intense, right? You make your own hours, you can sort of do your own thing.
But also, but that's in digital, you're just always learning. Like we've never stopped learning. Every day when we talk to someone new, you're always grasping. I know it's more intense when you go back to college, but I mean, I'm honestly like, I'm not that scared about going back.
I think I have like a bit of a contrasting opinion. So I feel like, I'm going to sound like a geek here, but back in the day, I think when we've all been part of the Indian education system, we know that it's more of a rote learning system. There is less practical application of everything that you're going to learn. I feel like when I started studying for the GRE, I didn't give the GMAT, I gave the GRE. I got to practically apply so many concepts that I'd never done before. So it was a new way of learning for me. So it just helped me, and I think it sort of shaped my mind into like thinking in a more practical sense, which I think also benefits my career right now. So for me, it was a fun experience because it was just a new way of learning, something that I'd never been used to. And I think that kind of learning, yes, I think that's something that I would think is very beneficial. But I also don't think formal education systems tend to have that, which is why I think I chose to stay in India. Also, since you mentioned earlier, there are influences in your life, that sort of sway your decision one way or another. So I mean, like everyone's lives, like I have my parents, I have my friends, I have a lot of friends that have gone abroad, regardless of, how crazy everyone makes it seem like, okay, fine, it's so hard to get a job, this, that. I think my friends have been fortunate, but 9 out of 10 friends that have gotten and landed a good job. So I mean, that sort of solidarity, I know that in my friend circle that, we can sort of manage that. So I guess at large, people know that, but it's just that leap that you have to take. But I think what made the decision for me was just the fact that I started liking business development, right? Like a career that's like so subjective and culturally driven. Like today, I just felt like if I went abroad and I tried to do like business development there, naturally, like if I hypothetically say America, naturally an American is going to be way better at selling to an American than an Indian would, because, you know, when we're talking to clients, like as in to begin with, it's a lot of, you know, talking to them about your lives, like just cultural things that basically can make you two connect. So like I know that like today I have the IPL to talk about. So that basically brings us on the same boat, and after that the conversation is much easier. I think that all of these nitty-gritties are very important and are harder to crack when you go abroad and the cultures are different.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's talk about the financial implications of it, right? Okay, so today, for whatever reason, let's assume that nobody has the funds to do it, or you have to take a loan to do it. You're taking what, 30, 40, 50 lakh rupees plus because you're going to have to live there, you're going to have to fend for yourself, your whatever simple things that you could get your Chotu Ramu to do, you can't do anymore, or you don't have that familial support. Don't you think that that amount of money, right, that multiplier that you're looking at, if you didn't spend that much, maybe it'll take you a year more to get there, but you will still continue earning every month and then get there in the same amount of time? Like again, me, like, because I'm in a position where I have to interview some sorts of people, and I've seen a lot of kids also who have come back from a fancy degree in the UK or in the States or Canada, whatever it is, and the kind of ask that they have is marginally higher than a kid who has who studied in like an HR or an NMIMS, and then after that just like doggedly worked. So what is the upside more of the actual learning experience and not the cachet of the degree for you? Because I find that like for the average Indian household, it's not going to be possible, right?
Yeah,
like your
no,
typical
definitely.
it's pretty expensive.
It is. So I think like I started by saying if you have the means to, right? And also like going to the best universities in India is not cheap either, right? Like an ISB, etc. It's more or less the same amount that you would spend minus the living cost, of course.
Sure.
A huge factor for me, a lot of my friends, was also the fact that it's an experience, a holistic experience. Like I said, very sheltered in Bombay. You're extremely sheltered. You have people, like you said, doing things for you. You have your parents to support you. I wake up and, you know, you have breakfast ready for you. But I think eventually you have to gain that, gain that independence. And for me, I don't think I would have gained that independence if I was staying at home. So again, like going abroad for me, along with like a major factor, which is education, and getting a job there eventually, would also be, you know, gaining that independence. Coming to the finances aspect of it, I've obviously done my calculations. From what I understand from my friends who are there in the US, etc., you are able to recover that money in the first 2 years once you're there. Like I have friends who've gone on loans. They have been, especially in the US, and US is way more expensive than the UK. And they've got like your 150K jobs, just not in the tech industry, but even in like your marketing industries. And they have been able to recover that money in the first couple of years. Again, that's besides the fact whether you're taking a loan or not, because you want to recover the money, right? But yeah, so I mean, I know like financially it is possible to do that.
Sure, but don't you run the risk? And most Indian students, and I'm a very nationalist person in my viewpoint, but you're going to go abroad. Firstly, it's a brain drain, so that's one part of it. The second part of it is that, like he said, you're always going to be fighting with an American or a Britisher for a job there. Even if you edge them out, it's going to be chalked up to, and I'm basing my knowledge purely on in content I've seen in a handful of people I've spoken to. One, it's always going to be looked at as like a diversity hire. So your independence or your skill is pretty much like excluded or overlooked. And the number two is that, one, you're not going to relate to them instantly, like how Yash said. And the second part is that you're always going to be looked at as that guy or that girl who edged out one of their fellow countrymen. So, and they treat us like, sorry to say, like I don't mean this in this thing way, India's on the up and up, right? We're the fastest growing economy, amongst the fastest two growing economies in the world. We have a huge domestic consumption, but they still treat us like second-class citizens at all points of time. I'm not saying it's open discrimination or like, oh, you can't come in here and all that shit, but no. Today, the way they will greet you or the level of information they will give you will be much lesser. Isn't that something that you're worried about? That they're going to, and you have a 2-year visa. Like, let's be honest, even though you'll probably be, and I can vouch for the fact that you'll probably be smarter than most of the people in your class or in terms of that output when you get into a job environment. they'll still tell you after 2 years that they have to sponsor you and and they'll
Yeah.
make you feel like it's a big obligation that you owe them, right?
I think
So isn't that a thought that worries you or concerns you?
It kind of does, but again, I mean, we are the young. Like India has the most amount of young like people in the world, right? Countries like the UK, Netherlands, etc. They need people who are our age, who understand, especially like talk about digital, who understand digital so well, who are able to be dynamic to pick up those type of roles. Like today, the UK also like they've opened up a ballot. So a couple of times a year, without any like, even if you have like a degree from Jai Hind HR, if you get selected in a ballot, you get I think a 1 or 2 year work visa to work there. I think it's also coming from the fact that they understand Indians, they know the amount of effort we put in everything that, that we do. So I think that's also something that they are opening up their doors now.
Was that a
So,
concern for you as a
I mean, yeah, I think I would say that, Jinita just spoke about all of these countries, needing people to do XYZ jobs. But like on the other hand, like I would, if I was to say this thing, I would flip it and I would just be like, okay, do I need that country sort of to do what I'm going to be doing? Like as in, okay, fine, they might need me, but when it comes to like my career, my progression, what I want to do in life, is going to that country going to add any value? So I just feel like a lot of what happens is when somebody goes there, it's about proving yourself. Like as in, I feel like, I've noticed this amongst my friends, maybe it comes out more subtly than I was to put it right now, but it's about, proving that you're the one that they should be selecting. And I don't think I'm comfortable with the fact that like, if I'm not being judged on my capabilities, but being judged on, say, I don't know, the color of my skin, to be very blunt, or
your name, what your name
yeah,
is.
Yeah, my name, my nationality, or just whatever, like the fact that I can't relate to them as much. I think those are unfair comparisons to make as compared to, capabilities, which would be a fair comparison. But we all know that, one will outweighs the other.
The world isn't like fair. Another question that I have in terms of this concept, right, which a lot of people, I think, discount and don't take into account is the systematic lifestyle change that comes, like what you're and I'm not even talking about, let's not talk about the privileged few, like I'm not talking about the 1% who have like multiple staff members in their house. I'm talking about just an average Joe who maybe moved from a Jaipur to a Delhi or a Bangalore to a Bombay. Today, even if you're living by yourself as a bachelor, the amount, I'm not going to come back into the money aspect again and again of it, but that's a very serious consideration factor, right? The lifestyle. Today, I can still have a 1-bedroom house in a Bandra, get a lady to come cook my food for me, clean my clothes maybe for me, because as a bachelor, maybe I'm not exposed to that, or clean the house for me, and still leave and have all of this done in under a lakh of rupees a month, right? Even cheaper if I go further than Bandra or I live, there are those options. But today in the UK or in any part of the world, the basic luxuries you can't get. I'm talking about, you have to vacuum clean your apartment, you need to clean your bathroom, you need to do a laundry for your clothes. That's one. The second part is even from the comfort point of view, right? Like the safety aspects of it. Don't you think that India is a safer, whichever city you're in, like I know there was a point of time where India was the Badlands, and especially for you because you're unfortunately, I'm not trying to make it like a sex conversation, but as a woman, it's a little bit more consideration that you have to take. Wouldn't you feel safer living in a city of India than living in the UK? Especially given how the UK is right now. And I'm not trying to scare you or anything, I'm just saying, especially what's happening there.
I think it's just all about like safety, like obviously taking safety into consideration. It's all about comfort, right? Today I'm so comfortable in Bombay because I know the ins and outs of the city. I know where I am. I know in any part of Bombay I can just pick up a phone and I know I'll have someone in that area. But to be fair, even if I were to shift to Delhi or to Bangalore for that matter, I would not feel safe. Because I don't know the city that well. I have like friends who are girls who have been living in London or New York, which places, there are like areas in those cities which are not that safe.
Right.
But they, like after being there for 6 months, they feel very safe because it's all about the familiarity. And I feel like just going out of your comfort zone is scary, not with respect to safety, but with respect to doing things yourself. It is scary, but I feel like it's something I've wanted to do. I've always wanted to do this. And I think it's just like taking that step, taking that leap to just bridge that gap, that that like mental block that you have of like not doing things yourself.
You're a Maka Ladla, so I know you're used to like having
Ghatlia
mansion
no. I was actually going to say that I think that this makes sense as well because I think that it's about how open-minded you are as a person. Like, I mean, you spoke about scary experiences. Fine. Now that is like physically harmful, scary. But like, I'm just talking about scary experiences in general, right? You shift a new career, you take up a degree that you've never ever studied before. These are scary experiences, and you have it all throughout life. But I think what happens is that, okay, fine, me moving from creative to BD, having never done sales before, a scary experience. But I think what happens is that when you have that open-minded nature of like, being open to any situation that life puts out there for you, I think that adds a lot to like, your character. I think it gives you a lot of perspective. So I feel like, even if you have to shift cities or whatever, right, you're going to meet new people. It's a very scary experience to begin with. But at the end of the day, when you try to think of like the positives, you get scared of skydiving for the first 5 seconds. But after that, it's a remarkable experience. So it's somewhat similar. Like where you're scared in the beginning and then you just turns out to be like, okay, fine, I never knew.
Better not send me an email saying I'm still pursuing my higher education.
No, this conversation has seen, like,
yeah, she's going to come to you like 6 months later.
No,
like,
he's given me
I'm
commitments.
leaving.
His passport's with me. But okay, so that's interesting. So that's something that maybe the audience can note from, that if you're an open-minded person or someone who likes to adventure, this is an experience that might be worthwhile for you. Why did you choose outside? Why would you, both of y'all were thinking of colleges outside the country?
Yeah.
Why was that? Why were you not thinking? Because again, my question is twofold. Okay, one, yeah, sure, there's the cachet of the degree and it's interesting and you got to live in another city and all of that shit. But the way they teach you business, and both of y'all have now seen y'all have both spoken to procurement guys, finance guys, legal guys, marketing guys, decision makers. So you understand the spectrum of business. You know that what they teach you in business books and theoretically, and how you approach a business and how you actually approach a business. And I'm talking only India specific. I can't speak about the rest of the world.
It's very different.
It's very different. So do you feel that if eventually the goal is to go somewhere, study and then to come back, you're taking your step off the gas, you're getting out of the game and you're going and interacting with people who are of a full different sensibility, and then you're going to come back and have to deal with our Indian like uncles who you have to deal with and tell them ki, no, please pass my PO, please do this, no, I'll send you mithai for Diwali, like all that shit. They don't teach you that in business school. Nobody can, because like I was saying in the last podcast with Toto and all, India's so diverse, India's so different, and staying away from India, it's not that thing that, okay, it's like cycling, right? When you come back and it's the same. No, India's changing so rapidly. When you come back, do you think you'll be able to adequately or accurately pick up the pulse as easily as you can now?
I mean, I've done business development for 2.5 years. From when I started to like what it is today, I don't think people have changed. I think just the way that they negotiate, there may be like a fancy new platform to do it on, but the tools to negotiate, the way you negotiate, I think remains the same. And just coming up to like why I chose to go abroad. The thing is, I wanted to go to the best in the world for what I want to do. Imperial's number 3. So, especially in the course that I want to do. So that's why that was like priority for me and not any other universities in India.
Got it.
So, I mean, I think India has changed a lot. Like, I mean, I can say this because I have so many friends that went for their undergrad, right? So post their undergrad, then they worked there. Now they've been there for like 6-8 years. And now when they come here on holiday, they're just like, oh dude, like shit, you have a Starbucks on every corner. Now you have a Pret. We want Pret as an account. So I mean, subtle one. That's Jinita's work. So I mean, they come here and they're like fascinated by the new India and all that. So I feel like, rapidly, like, if I was to just go away for 3 years and come back, I think I would see a different picture of like, the average Indian citizen and what they are doing on a daily basis. So I think that changes. But what I've realized is, to go back to your question, initially you said that, why not consider universities in India and why go abroad? So I think what happens is that I have a lot of friends that are in universities in India. So, the IIMs and all of that. Now, what often happens is that, while they have a really good curriculum, there's a lot of people that come there. Like, I mean, we spoke about masses, right? The Indian masses. Like, the actual dream would be an IIT, IIM. So that's actually the mindset that's there in the college as well. So, like, you've gone there, you're just like grilling it out, and there's no like new age thinking that's happening. You're sort of just trying to get done with that course because you have a 60 lakh package waiting for you at the end of it.
Okay.
And then people take up the package and then like, they start working.
Get into a corporate grind.
And and they're on a corporate grind, or they just realize, oh shit dude, like, I'm getting a lot of money, but I don't have any time to spend the money. Like, what do I do? So like, then you're stuck in that entire zone. Whereas when you go like abroad, like, what I think fundamentally India sort of boxes your thinking to some degree with its curriculum and its teaching structure. I think that foreign universities sort of let you open that box up a bit. I don't know how whether
Sure.
they'll succeed.
But then don't you think that point of that if India boxes you up when you're studying, that's because our business system is also like a little boxy system. If you come with too free-flowing thoughts, haven't you all noticed that today the biggest fear of an Indian business is something like, okay, not to say something new, that's not the right way to put it. But if I try and tell you that the way that things have been done, I'm telling you a new way, which is more efficient. 9 out of 10 times you're going to be like, bro, just stick to the, like if it's not broke, why are you trying to fix it?
That's a very traditional mindset. Like, I mean, we do see that changing slightly over the years.
Slightly, right? Like, that's my question.
Yeah, but I mean, also, I just feel like, just going back to a bit about Yash said, I feel like the Indian curriculum, very rote learning basis, right? My course out there, I have 3 semesters there. Every 2 semesters, I only have, like, I think 2 subjects each would have to give a written exam for. Everything is very experienced. Like I have an entire semester where I have to like intern while I study as well. So I think that exposure that that the universities out there give you is very different compared to at least what I've done in my undergraduation.
I mean, you spoke about India and like, you know, it being sort of very conservative. That's because that's a very traditional mindset, and India is rooted in like, you know, being a conservative society. It takes pride in its roots, a lot of which are like, you know, really great roots. But on the other hand, you have like a lot, you know, where things can be improved. But like, because India is just a conservative society, if somebody has bagged a government job, like for the masses, you ideally will never leave. You ideally will never leave because that's sorted for you. So you don't have those higher aspirations because your day-to-day is sorted. So I think everyone comes from that mindset of like, you know, not wanting to explore and take risks because they just feel like it's better to be conservative. Like,
and also it's a level of comfort, right? Like today, I think the reason why traditional businesses are also not changing is because it's headed by your 65, 70-year-old uncle or auntie who probably does not understand the new technologies which are coming in. Like, you know, if you were to go to them and be like, oh, adapt like Ariba, for example, just like a top of mind example that we use a lot. They will not do it because for them it's so, they don't understand it, and they're also very, very hesitant on giving up control. You know, like I think older people just tend to want to have more control over things which are going on versus having that delegation system. Like today in the BD team, you don't have all the control, right? Like you've given it down, which makes your life easier. When we have like juniors working with us, it makes our lives easier. So we understand that importance of delegation.
But I'll tell you, because you're also seeing the scale that you're talking about, the not change. I mean, it's not really relevant, but just today, big businesses in India, there are so many stakeholders and so many parties. And as you get bigger, there's so much more litigation, bureaucracy, processes that makes it that way. So today, I feel like at this juncture, we are not India. We represent this thought process that you said represents 1% of India. Therefore, they're making a curriculum that's made for 99% of India. But the second part is that you can be as open-minded and free-thinking as you want to be, but you're still going to come back and work with a guy who's come out of this system, who's still going to have this mindset. So do you think that you're going to have to unlearn some of the stuff you learned there when you come back here?
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely. I think it goes the other way around. Is that I'm going to have to unlearn so much of what I have learned here to adapt to them, and vice versa. When I do,
you don't think that whole switch process is going to be tedious?
I feel like this whole podcast.
No, it's not. I'm sorry.
Me
no, it's not at all.
Sorry.
But don't you think that process of doing that switch is going to be very difficult? Do you think? And again, it's not about you. I want this to be as a thing for people who are asking this question. So, what is it that makes you feel confident that you can do that?
I just think with like just how I am as a person, like very adaptable, very open to change, and the fact that I want to do this. No one's like put a gun to my head and been like, oh, you have to go, right? It's like my decision at the end of the day, whether, God forbid, like I don't fail, but whether I fail or succeed, at the end of the day, it comes to me. Like my parents have not forced me. Like no, obviously none of you guys are forcing me to go get like get another degree. But yeah, that's what it comes down to.
So another like question that I have is the thought process of most people your age or people who are thinking about starting that I'm going to go abroad and the corporate structure there is going to be so different from the corporate structure here. It's going to be faster. It's going to be more agile. And is that the thought process? And if so, my question is, do you really think that Indian corporates are that different now? Because again, we work with a lot of corporates and you see how they're having their sales meets, they have the cool tech platforms, the softwares to make like working fun. They do all this like team building activities and all that nonsense, albeit Indianized, but it's still done. So what do you think is going to be the difference between corporate India and corporate wherever else in the world you decide?
You spoke about how companies here are also adopting the same agile environment. Like we see that in a lot of startups. You have like startups like Dream11, etc., that are coming into the picture, and like the entire sort of corporate mentality and there's been an entire shift. So I think that's going to happen. So initially you asked Jinita about you'll have to unlearn and become have that conservative mindset again when you come here. I don't think that's the case if you're there for long enough. Like I feel like when you come to like a new India, I think new India is getting to that stage where because I don't think it's a corporate thing. I think it's a people thing. I think today if you've grown up in an environment which is conservative, naturally when you move on to the corporate side, you're going to be hesitant to like throw outlandish ideas out there and all that because you're worried about how that might affect your day to day. So I feel like that is not there as much there, where people are willing to take the risk. And fail, maybe succeed, but like they're willing to take the risk, which I'm seeing now in corporates here, but it's not existent across, say, the larger number of, old houses out there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You said an interesting point which I want to talk about. I feel like, and that's my only grouse with the Indian education system. We use red pens to fucking cancel out wrong. We are taught that if in a math sum you do one step wrong, the whole sum is wrong. We don't celebrate or encourage failure because we say if you're a failure, you suck, you can't do anything. Is that a draw for you that I can go there and be a little bit freer, and is that like the reasoning behind your push to go abroad and study?
I don't think failure is a thing. I mean, at least it's just the way like I've
fear of failure, not failure. I'm talking about fear of failure, the stigma that comes behind failure here.
So again, like I feel like it comes from a very privileged place for me to say this, is that like I have never, like growing up, failure was never looked down upon, at least for me. Like it could be different for you guys, but so I don't think going there has anything to do with failure. Like I can fail here and no one at home will be like, oh, why did you fail at this, I think out there, like I said, it's just experience, just gaining that degree, and also maybe trying to have like more of like a 9 to 5 and then like being able to like just do more apart from working, because out here, like I mean, it's just the way Indians are, right? Like we do tend to work like your 10:30 to 7:30, which technically does not really leave space to do much more than the weekends.
On the contrary, I was going to say that like I think it's in fact the least motivating factor for me because what will happen is that I just spoke about having a conservative mindset, right? Like today I sort of think that I have like the sort of new India, so I'm going to be more progressive. But when I go there, I've seen certain formulas that are formulas to success, what my friends have done. So I'm going to like sort of try and replicate those formulas. So I'm going to become more conservative in an effort to like try to like be there with my ideas. So I think I'm going to become more conservative because I don't want to take the risk of going there and failing and then coming back. So like I think I would adopt a more conservative thought out process.
Got it. Another question, like from a hierarchy point of view, right? Like today, if say you're working at a particular organization or you're working at any organization, it's a known fact now, I think, that the longer amount of time that you spend at that company and the deeper amount of involvement you give to that company, the more scope you have for your growth over there.
Yeah.
When you take a break and you come in, you're coming in as, let me tell it to you from let me flip the switch. If I was hiring someone, I would rather look at someone who has been working consistently, because everybody, and again, misconception possibly, but everybody who comes out of a B school is like I have 60 lookalikes, I have 60 mini-me's coming in front of me who are all coming from the same ideology, who are all saying the same shit, who have the same template on their resume, as compared to someone who's a grinder. Don't you think that'll work against you if you go abroad and study, like when you're coming back into the situation?
Like coming back to India?
Yeah.
I don't think so, because that's why I took the time to work, right? Like I took the time, like, I've been at Schbang, like 2.5 years just at Schbang. I've taken the time, like on paper, like you can see my growth, exec, senior exec, lead manager now. So I don't think, like I feel like if you were like to hire me now, I think you would probably see that also, that like along with the fact that I do have like B-school experience.
Got it. Are you looking, did you all ever at any point of time, so this is another question, right? So when I was very seriously contemplating doing my MBA and I chose against it, there were 3 reasons I was told to do an MBA. 1, that ego satisfaction degree that you get, which you can frame and put in your bedroom. 2, the network that you get access to over there in terms of the friends and this thing. And 3, which most people, when they're explaining it to me, always put this as number 3 because it seems like it's the least important, the actual education and fundamentals you learn there. So what is it that y'all were looking for when you were studying?
4th is also pivot. Like people that like realize that, okay, fine, my career up to this point has led me here. and I don't think I want to do this anymore, so I'll just do my MBA and like decide, okay, fine, I'm going to do.
I'll just do my MBA is the common thought which I see amongst most fucking people, right?
Yeah.
Today,
Yeah.
the logic is also that there are finite, and this is genuinely a problem. It doesn't sound like me about what I'm about to say because I'm quite selfish. But today, there are 60 MBA seats in that fucking class because I'm sorry, I'm not just like talking about two particular people, but like as a larger bunch, because you have the access or the means, or your father can help you get into that school and pay your full tuition at one time. Don't you feel it's not right that you're taking somebody else's seat who rightfully deserves it and wants that MBA for that actual reasoning? Like, that is my biggest grouse, that most people say that pivot, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to go and study this. Oh, I am a little lost in my life, I'm just going to go study this. Oh, I'm a little fried mentally with Bombay, I'm just going to go study this. Like, that is a lot of like times the scenario, right? Like, that's why people end up taking that decision.
I mean, sorry.
I'm just saying, if you're doing it for the sake of doing it just because you have the money, then that's like a completely different conversation to have. I mean, I don't think most of us who work, like want to make a career for themselves, will be doing it purely for the reason of, oh, I'm bored, let me just go get another degree. Like, I don't think any of us three of us have like grown up with that mindset, right?
Like, I don't think it's, I mean, obviously, if you have the money and all of that, and if you just want to do it for the, enjoying your university experience abroad, then I don't think I'm part of that boat. But like, I think, I mean, it's okay to be selfish, right? Because you're thinking about yourself. I mean, on a real basis, if I was to say that, okay, fine, somebody else is losing out on a seat, big deal. Like, honestly, like I'm being really...
Dog eat dog.
I'm being real here. Like, fine, they might have like certain goals that an MBA definitely will help them achieve. And I have some goals that I think that maybe an MBA might help me with. Now, obviously, I'm smart enough because I got the seat. Like, it's not like I can, wriggle through that process in any other manner. So I'm obviously smart enough to have the seat. Now it's up to me what I'm going to do with my MBA, right? Like, as in...
Personal orientation. There's one more thing that I wanted to ask you all. It's a little touchy topic. I don't know if I should have brought it up, but I will anyway. Work-life balance. You all are both young people. It's a big conversation, right? Today, where people think that, work-life balance is key. I have earned it and I have done this. I mean, my point of view is very clear on this. And when Mark Cuban says it, it's looked at as, wow, business school. But no, you have to work hard and ragda when you're young, because you are young, your body can take it, you have the fortitude. And as you get older, you automatically get that ability to take a step back because you've already put in the work. But when you all are going to go to university, over there is not going to be work-life balance, right? Because you're going to be studying. You're going to want to make the most of your time there. So you're going to want to study. You're going to want to work. You're going to want to party. You're going to want to wake up in time and work out and do all those things on repeat. So don't you think that when you go, like Indians here, and this is a real question for both of you, like Indians here will complain about, I want fucking work-life balance. I deserve this. I want that. But when you go over there, when you're working more than that, in addition to all the stuff that I just said, you're also cleaning your house, cleaning your clothes, making your breakfast. That time, no one seems to complain. So do you think that standard, and that's fact, right? Like that you can't deny. Everybody I know, I have had a lot of friends who've gone there and like, I loved it and all. I said, yeah, but you used to clean your own underwear, man. Like you had to get up 15 minutes earlier because you ran out of clean chutneys to use. So you're not having work-life balance there. You're actually burning yourself like ragged over there. And then when you come back to India again, automatically that switch comes on of, okay, but bro, this is how much it is.
Okay, if I was to ask you a question, do you think on average people are more frustrated in India, or are they more frustrated on a day-to-day abroad?
In today's world, abroad.
So I think I disagree with that. Like, I mean, with my point of view being, if I look at like, mass of India, like, middle class India.
Those are indoctrinated, right? I'm talking about the middle class of any country. If you look at a poor middle class guy in Britain today, they're complaining because their electricity is going up. You don't hear an Indian Mazdoor complaining about his electricity. They just say, fuck it, bro, we got to work and we'll make more. Okay, 300 ka 400 ho gaya, to 4 ghante aur kaam
I think
karenge.
out there, they just, like, they can complain about it and someone's there to listen. But right today, I mean...
Exactly, right? But you will not complain over there. You will go there and say, this is my dream I'm living.
Agreed, but that's if my electricity. I mean, I'm saying I'm not
electricity. I'm talking about the work. I'm talking about the work-life balance part of it.
I feel that 1 year when you have to like go to university, study, project work, and do ghar ka kaam and cook and everything, I think it'll be difficult. But it's something that I know, like I'm prepared for it. After that, like fine, like you work 9 to 5. Like yes, you have laundry. Yes, you have like food to cook and everything. But I just feel like I'll just have more recreation time as compared to what I do.
And I could be wrong.
Funny? I could be wrong. Like I may go there and be like, oh shit, like this is not how I imagined it to be. But
fair.
Yeah.
But no, my central premise is what I find funny is, and I say this to a lot of people, over here.
You don't do anything.
No. Over here, you're fucking getting paid to work and the amount of work you put in leads to, in most case scenarios, proportionately how much money you draw and how much more majja you can do over there, and you complain about it. Okay, not you. I'm not talking about two of you all here, but the general mass, and you complain about your work-life balance. Then you take a break. You stop fucking getting paid. You pay them money. You run ragged. And you say, wow, the best years of my fucking life. What's up with that, dude? Like, come on, like, think about it logically. Let's remove ourselves from the equation of I am an individual, I am a this thing. Isn't that the case? And won't that be the case for you? And you will still look back on this year as one of the best years of your life?
Yeah, true.
Or one of the most memorable years of your life?
Yeah, true.
What's up with that, dude?
I mean, I don't know how to answer. So I genuinely feel like you're convincing me not to
I'm
go.
not convincing. I'm genuinely convincing. Like I want to ask that question to anybody because it has not appealed to me. Mere se paise lo. I'll keep this one clean because the last one is damn dirty. Make me work hard, run me ragged, and get me to say testimonials about you and hate on your country where you have a lot of the other things going for you and you don't have to put in as much of the effort. Maybe I'm not understanding the logic, so I'm hoping one of you can explain it to me.
You won't take it.
So
I win. Okay, sorry, no.
Dude, I'm not going. So
I don't know. I won it. It's cool. No, but like.
So I feel like everyone just goes there because there's like an aspirational mindset to like the US. Like, okay, fine, when your friends talk about their bachelors there, they talk about, the experiences they've had there and all that, you realize that you have had, just like my tone right now, a very monotonous life in India. Like, you realize that everything, like Jinita said, right? Like, you have a very standardized life. This is your day-to-day. So I think it's more coming from a point of view of, having a new experience, which is the only, change. I think change is probably the only reason why I think it makes sense. I mean, on paper, if you want to party here, you can party there. If whatever you want to do there, you can do here at this point. But the only difference is that you're doing it in a very comfortable space here and you're not doing it in a comfortable space there. Now that's up to you. Like whether you want that comfort. So like Neil, do you want that comfort here?
Let's spend money. Let's go be uncomfortable and then let's come back.
Yeah.
But why do you have this mindset of coming back? Like as in, not a lot of people are
okay,
going there.
I'll explain why. I have a very fundamental viewpoint on that because I feel like, and again, this might be like a controversial take, you're foolish if you don't. Because why did you go to America? Why did you go to the UK? Land of the brave, home of the free. The American dream. That shit's dead now. You can't do it anymore. You have to go to a country. And I'm not talking about America because of its culture or UK because of culture. I'm just talking about simple economics, right? You join a place when it's on the up, so your growth is more exponential. When you join a place when it's already at the up, there are already people, frameworks, gatekeepers who are already in place. Why would you not, if you're going to put in the same amount of effort there and make you'll earn well, you live a decent standard of life, but for that same amount of effort, you'll make exponentially more here. Why did people go to America in the 60s? Because nothing was there. It was considered being a white man in America in the 70s was like winning the lottery, right? Because you just had to go through the motions and you would be successful. Similarly, being an educated, I'm not going to take race, religion into this, sex into this, just being an educated Indian with a little bit of social or societal currency, you will grow here, right?
But Neil, this is the same thing that everyone keeps telling you, right? Like, okay, fine, look at India. It's like, India but right. Like, the next 20 years, the next 30 years are really, really optimistic for India. I think that makes sense completely from an entrepreneurship, like an entrepreneurial mindset. Okay. My reason being, today when somebody starts out a company because of the, the new laws, sort of giving the right incentives to start a company, etc. People are getting into entrepreneurship and those are the companies that are, changing, say, India right now. Now you think about that from a corporate standpoint and you just leave the corporate standpoint aside and you go to like your Indian masses. Today, I don't care about 30 years ke baad India ke what will happen in India. I care about the next 5-7 years for me right now. What am I doing in India and how is my life sort of going? And perhaps when you think about from that point of view, when you think about the US or not the US, I would say.
Anywhere outside
India. You sort of are like, okay, my day-to-day is so much better. My standard of living is so much better as an employee. Like here, as an employee, I think that the mindset is very different. Yeah, like you know that. Like I mean, the rat race is like, it's true. Yeah. So I feel like unless you have that entrepreneurship mindset and you want to build a business,
then India is the place.
I feel like.
But that logic again, won't that apply there as well? Because today what we spoke about earlier, right? You're competing with a local from there. So you have to have that mindset, that edge. And even after that, you're going to be working for I'm sorry to say, the white man. Like, I'm not trying to be antagonistic or anti-globalization oriented.
That's where you go to the best. You don't go to like a random university where you're probably paying equal amount or more only to like not be able to get a job and come back. Like that's where you're going. I mean, like I think it's a little silly for you to go all the way abroad.
So you're saying don't go abroad if you're not going to like a premier university.
Yeah, don't.
I mean, that's true, but I think what you said, if I was to like answer that, then I would say, I know going in that I'm going to be working under the American sort of, whatever, like my boss is going to be an American or his boss is going to be an American. I know going into this that's going to happen. But at the same time, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make if my life on a day-to-day is so much better because of like, just being in an environment that's so much different as compared to India. So I feel like it's a sacrifice, but then it's just up to you whether you want to make it and whether like it's going to hurt your ego enough to the point where, okay, you're like damn frustrated and you want to come back, which I don't think, fortunately, I don't think my ego would get bruised if I'm working under one.
Yeah.
It's not about the white person you're working under a white person. I'm just talking about the fact that if you're going to be working under somebody where you said standard of life, right? Until you reach the point where you're 10 years, 15 years into your career, you're not going to be living a better standard of life, right? Like, yeah, okay, the bus you take to work might be nicer. The parks you look at on the day-to-day might be better. You might have the option to go and sit at a pristine blue lake in your spare time, which is a 15-minute drive from your house. But when you come back to your house, you're still living in that matchbox. You're still cleaning it up yourself, right? So how is standard of life better is my question to you. Like just the stuff around you, is that what, like just the opportunity to do things?
I feel like comparing standard of life with someone, like with people like us may not be the right thing to do because we're honestly very lucky to be living with our parents, right? We have our houses, we have cars, whatever. Today, like today, if I were to take like my salary, for example, and let's say like, and if I'm living with someone else, like take their salary together, or even like just by myself, like I will not be able to afford the standard of life that I want out here with the kind of salary that I'm getting paid. Versus out there, even at my level, the kind of salary that I'm expecting that my friends are getting paid, you find like out there.
Outgoings are also higher now.
Outgoings may be higher, but I can probably afford rent in a good area in London, for example, compared to versus what I have out here.
Bombay,
out there, plus like you don't need like a car. Like living in New York, living in London, in the big cities, you may not need the kind, and you may not, people around you also like have a very similar way of living as well. So you may not feel that difference whether you have something versus you don't have something.
You spoke about living in a matchbox there. Like on average, we know what this industry's average is for people that are just joining up, like entry level jobs, etc. And you look at Bombay, and you look at the rentals are there in Bombay. Like today, I think that you're living in a matchbox here. The only difference is that you're living the matchbox life here. You're working this hectic corporate job. The difference is that when you have to catch a Virar local versus when you have to catch one of maybe the London tubes, I think that's the difference. Those moments in between your matchbox life that are still on a better side.
That's a valid answer. So now I think just to wrap this up, this has been quite informative. I hope people out there also get value from this. You have both chosen different paths. So I just want to literally sum up on that one thing. As in your experience, what are the things one must do if they're preparing to go abroad and study?
Okay.
And maybe for you, what I'd like to know is, if you're choosing to defer that education, what are things that you can do to advance yourself or to make sure that when you make that choice, it's not like you've missed a beat or you've lost that chance when it was the best chance possible?
Yeah. Cool. So just a couple of things I think everyone should be keeping in mind is one, like I mentioned this, touched upon, is just go to the best. Because the amount of investment you're making, time, money, effort, energy, everything, like doing the work yourself will obviously be way better, more fruitful if you go to the best in the world. To gain a bit of experience, I would say, that was always my goal. Work a little bit to see whether you actually enjoy it and then go do your masters, because you're not going to get to do your masters again, especially, I mean, it's just too much to do, like keep doing masters again and again, right? So that would be number 2. 3, look at investment, money especially, like see how you want to fund it, whether you're able to fund it yourself. Like take a student loan. I'm not saying don't, but even if you are, just make sure that you will be earning enough to be able to repay that within the next 2 to 3 years. And of course, just weigh the pros and cons. It's not for everyone going abroad and studying. It may work better for you to stay back, right? Like it's worked great for you. It's worked great for so many people at Schbang, where you'll have seen more, gotten more just by staying here. But yeah, I think that's...
So I'm going to talk about from an MBA point of view. So Janita's talking about like a master's, and my everything I'm going to say is, going to be from the perspective of like going abroad for the MBA. So I would say that, make sure that you work for long enough, make enough mistakes, because I think what often happens is that, MBA is like a thappa that everyone wants, saying that, okay, I'll go abroad, my son is an MBA from XYZ university. But I feel like make enough mistakes in your corporate life, because that's what the MBA is about. It's going to teach you not how to deal with situations, but, it's going to teach you that, okay, fine, if you had dealt with the situation, then this is a more optimum way of dealing with a situation. So it's a very practical degree. So I think spend enough years working, make sure that you make mistakes, and if you're on the fence, don't go. Like, I mean, I would say if you're 100% in for it, then that's a good, choice to make. But if you're on the fence, then wait it out, because at some point, the answer will be very clear, because either at that point, you're just going to be like, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to go. Or at that point, you'll realize that, okay, it was a good decision that I made by not going. So, save your parents' money by like, not going if you're on the fence.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for taking the time. This was informative. I feel like people who are on the fence, whether they want to go abroad or not want to go abroad, might get some like information from here. Most of y'all should stay in India, make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. Peace out.